Hello, my name is Parker Regan, and today I will be talking about the heart and how it pumps for you. A little overview of this presentation, we're talking about the heart and its role in our body, the form and function of the heart, what happens when that form and function don't go together, and then ultimately we're going to get to congestive heart failure, and then this photo is just a diagram of where the heart is in our body. Now let's go to the heart. It's a muscular organ. What its main job is to pump blood throughout the body. It does that through the circulatory system, and it's used to the blood vessels. It's located in the mediastinum, which is behind the two lungs. And the majority of the heart is actually located on the left side of your body. So I place our hand on the left breast during the national anthem. And then the apex is going to be inferiorly pointed to the left as well. Now for the heart structure, it's made up of three different layers: epi, myo, and endocardium. Epicardium, which is the outer layer. It's dense, irregular connective tissue. It's got to withstand all those contractions over and over again. The myocardium is, as you can see, it's the thickest. It's because of the actual mass of the heart. It's the muscle. This is what does the contracting. This is the force that is applied. And then also you have the endocardium, simply the inner layer. It just lines the organ and whatnot. Also, there's 4 chambers and 4 valves in the heart. You got right, left atrium, right, left ventricle, along with the AV valves, which are the tricuspid and mitral valves, and they have the semi-ulnar valves, which are the pulmonary and then the aortic valve posterior to that. Also, there's 2 main veins and arteries in each one. In the heart, there's a superior inferior vena cava, and then the pulmonary veins, and then for the arteries, there's the pulmonary arteries on both sides, and the main aorta coming out the top, which is superior. Now for how the blood kind of flows through the body. Well, it's going to enter through the inferior or superior vena cava, go through the right atrium, down into the tricuspid valve, into the right ventricle. It's going to be pumped out through the pulmonary valve, into the pulmonary trunk, into the pulmonary arteries, into the lungs. Then back after the lungs, once it gets deoxygenated, it's going to come back through the pulmonary veins. It's going to go into the left atrium, down the mitral valve, into the left ventricle, where it's going to get pumped out again, this time to the whole body, through the aortic valve, ascending aorta, and then the aorta. And then you ask, well, we know how the blood now flows through the body, but how does it get that contraction to do so? Well, this is through the cardiac cycle. And you have 2 things. You have systole, which is contraction, and diastole, which is relaxation. And so when one relaxes, the other contracts. So as the ventricle systoles, or as it contracts, the atrium is going to relax and whatnot, and it's the ventricle contraction that sends the blood out the body. Also, well, now we know how the blood pumps through it, how it gets out, but how does it get that trigger? Well, it's going to do the cardiac conduction system. First, it's going to get a sympathetic neuron from the head, which is going to go all the way down to the SA node or the sinus node. It's going to fire that node. It's going to fire the AV node. AV node is going to wait about 0.1 second before it fires itself. Therefore, it allows the atrium to completely lose all its blood and fill up the ventricles. Then after the AV node fires, you can go down the bundle of His, and then down to the right and left bundle branches. And it's good to know that right and left bundle branches don't just stop in the middle, they get all the way down to the ventricles and then wrap around inferiorly, and then get to the junction fibers. And this is where it's going to fire. This is where it's going to fire, and this is where you have the ventricular contraction or systole, and the apex is going to be obviously inferiorly, and it's going to be pushed up. So the blood's going to be pushed out to the lungs or out to the body, and this is because the junction fibers and the bundle branches are inferior on the bottom side, and so blood can be pushed out and actually go somewhere. Now, as I said before, the heart is a part of the circulatory system. Other parts of the circulatory system are the blood and its blood vessels. As I said before, the circulatory system's 3 goals are transportation, regulation, and protection. Right, the heart needs to transport, the blood is going to regulate, and then the blood vessels is also going to regulate and transport with the blood with it. Inside the blood vessels, you have 3 main types: arteries, veins, capillaries. There's 3 different types of arteries, 5 different types of veins, and 3 different types of capillaries as well. And these all go hand in hand in getting the blood from the heart throughout the whole body and then back to the heart. And as I said, so here's the function. You have, once blood is pumped out of the heart, you're going to have the arteries, which are going to take the blood away, and then to every single major muscle, organ system. And then at the site of exchange between the arteries and veins, or what we call the capillaries or the capillaries beds, and this is where blood's going to drop off the oxygen and nutrients to the muscles, and the muscles are going to give back the CO2 and waste that it don't need anymore. It's going to travel back up in the veins or towards the heart, and then get dumped off and get re-oxygenated, re-neutralized with all these nutrients inside the heart and the lungs. Now you're going to ask, well, what could go wrong? There's a variety of heart problems that we have. You remember like heart attacks, heart failure, stuff like that, and it's just all to do with the heart not working properly, and that conduction system, it's going to beat the heart between 2 to 3 billion times in a lifetime, and so that's 2 to 3 billion times which something could go wrong. And as I said before, if the AV node is supposed to wait 0.1 seconds, but what if it doesn't? What if it goes too early? What if it goes too late? What if the SA node doesn't get that innervation from the brain to fire? And so ultimately, it's going to most of the time lead to pumping too slow. And with this comes a problem of, well, what happens to the blood? Well, the blood's still coming back to the rest of your body, and ultimately, it just has nowhere to go. And so we get to congestive heart failure. And although it has the word failure in it, it's not technically a failure. It's just that your blood and your heart stops working at full capacity or full potential. And so it is characterized by a weak muscle on the left ventricle side, or by insufficient ability to pump blood out of the left ventricle. It's important to know, to state that it's all has to do with the left ventricle, because there's a deficiency in the right ventricle and it wasn't able to pump as much. It doesn't have to pump as far, just to the lungs, but the left ventricle has to pump all throughout the entire body. So that's where the big problem comes. As you can see here, is that there's stiff, thick chambers, right? And so when it gets filled with blood, they actually stretch way too much than they're supposed to. And so you get this idea of the stretch contractibility, about you can't have it too short or too long. You get a happy medium, but with congestive heart failure, the left ventricle stretch capacity is way too far, so the contraction is not as much. And then you get this idea where not enough blood is pumped out, and you have the ejection fraction, which is the total amount of blood pumped out that's in the ventricles. The average human is around 60%, but with congestive heart failure, it can go anywhere from 50 to 40, even 30%. So you almost have a double the chance, almost half of the blood being pumped out, which is going to be very not good. Now, for the physiology, as I said before, with the ejection fraction so much lower, you basically have less blood pumped to every part of your body, less blood to every tissue, muscle, organ system. And so now walking up the stairs is going to tire out your leg. It doesn't get enough oxygen and blood that it needs. Maybe taking a shower is going to tire out your arms, little things like that. Also, with less blood comes less blood to your brain. So now, instead of being tired and weak all the time, you can be dizzy and not be able to stand up straight. And we all know what happens when the brain doesn't get the proper nutrients it needs, or it's going to be a non-functioning brain, and that's not good for anybody. Second, with less blood going out through the entire body means less blood to the kidneys. Less blood to the kidneys means it can't filtrate out the waste and fluids that it needs to, so then you're going to have a buildup of fluids in your body. That buildup is going to either be in your lungs, right, your liver, your eyes, and most noticeably on your limbs, so on your ankles, edema, as we know it. And then lastly, there's going to be a backflow. And so, as I said before, the blood has nowhere to go. So if the left ventricle isn't pumping out what it needs to, then it's going to backflow into the left atrium, and the left atrium is going to backflow into the lungs. And in the lungs, the blood plasma is going to leak back into the alveolar sacs, and this is when you're going to have fluids inside those, and the person's going to feel congested, hence the term congestive heart failure. And with this, you're going to have a shortness of breath, whereas your lungs can be at full capacity now. And so now walking up the stairs not only will tire out your legs, but you're going to be exhausted. You feel like you just ran a marathon. Not only will taking a shower tire your arms, but it's going to be as if you just did the Tour de France. So every little action is just going to become worse and worse. And with the shortness of breath, the already low amount of blood that is in your body, circulating your tissues and your muscles, is going to have even lower oxygen binding to the hemoglobin, right? Instead of having the normal 4, I only have 2 or 3 now because you have so little oxygen coming in. And so you get this cascade of effects from one system to another. It's going to affect not just the circulatory system or the respiratory system, but every other system, as we can see. And so in conclusion, the heart is the MVP of our body. Without it, every little action, thought would not be possible. Right? We need the blood, we need the nutrients to move and think, especially what I'm doing here with you guys sitting there. When something's wrong, it's usually noticeable, maybe not to us, but to doctors for sure, because it's such a major organ, and most of the time it's life-threatening. As the old phrase goes, a healthy, happy heart. A healthy heart is a happy heart, and in Proverbs, there's a saying, healthy, happy heart is like good medicine. So even they knew way back then that a good heart is the best medicine